Our great thanks to all Red Circles of Fire subscribers.
Love ya. Hit that notify bell for superb new content.
Chapter 16. The Transmissions. Following behind other pilgrims, Oto-Mani and Diodi walked along a winding road toward Makana City. The road sloped lazily upwards until eventually they exited a cave entrance and felt sweltering sunray heat upon their faces and chests. Each step took them closer to the city, but a wide gulf of the unknown still laid ahead. They knew their instructions were to find the Mother Crystal. They knew they left their dear sister and her child behind. They knew they carried a contraband Orbani given to them by Lolo. But why? They were bedeviled by the why of it all. None of this made any sense. And because Tulu, the high priestess Kalla-Sonora, and the last appearances of the goddesses were behind them, their stomachs churned with the uneasy feeling that they were literally leaving all of the answers behind them. In addition, did they really believe the strange parallels that Tulu said existed between Rakana and Makana? Were the two nations really the same people separated by war and generations of ignorance? Still, they pressed ahead because they hoped the Mother Crystal would provide answers. Walking hand in hand, Diodi broke the silence. Muzi? Yes, Odi. Do you regret your decisions that led to all of this? Diodi was carrying the Orbani in a burlap bag that Lolo gave them. After an uncomfortable pause, Oto-Mani finally responded. On some level, yes, but I will never regret doing whatever is necessary to defend my love for you. Diodi leaned over to reward Oto-Mani's sweet sentiment with a peck of supple lips, which was hard to do while they walked a little out of sync. That was sweet, but I just hate that you've risked everything for me when there are so many people who may be hurt because you're not on the throne. Odi, don't sadden yourself. Remember that my fate was already sealed when I emancipated your people, and I will never, ever regret ending the ungodly cruelty of slavery in my realm. Diodi bent his arm upwards, and because he was holding Oto-Mani's hand, also bent Oto-Mani's arm. Then Diodi softly pressed his lips to the fleshy tendons of his lover's backhand. I just pray we made the right decision leaving Rhea behind. I still don't know if I fully trust Tulu and possibly Lolo. I know. But maybe it's hard for us to trust because we come from a culture where distrust is so very inherent. Maybe. For several hours, their footfalls kicked up so much dust that the brown clouds that wafted thickly in the air obscured the silhouettes of fellow pilgrims up ahead. At some point, they saw no fellow travelers at all, and the two of them were hungry and sweat-drenched. Odi, let's rest at that little pond ahead. By a serene lily-padded pond, they found cool shade as well as two smooth boulders to use as stools and sat down. They tucked the Orbani and their other things under the shadow of a large rock. Lolo had packed lunches for them that consisted of some sliced gordango, hot spicy mushrooms, rice bread, cauliflower cheese, and strawberry cake. Enough food for a 2-day walk even if they ate hungrily. They ate sparingly because they wanted the food to last but still were full. Belching satisfaction, Diodi had a look of a different kind of hunger when he asked, Muzi, does this pond remind you of the nude wading pools we saw? Oto-Mani mirrored his lover's flirty raised eyebrow. Oh, you want us to do likewise? Diodi mused. Well, it would be nice to at least wash some of this road dirt and sweat off our bodies. Without a moment's hesitation, Oto-Mani agreed through a flirty grin. Okay. Initially, they just removed their outer togas but wore their undergarments while wading waist-high into refreshing, pristine waters. By now, they were well aware that Makana's morality toward public nudity was far freer than that of Rakana. So their nakedness in this little roadside pond might only offend the most puritanical priest of Makana, but not the vast majority of other people. Still, their Rakanan sensibilities meant they felt nude. As they stood embracing each other, concentric ripples of water ringed their exquisite bodies. The shimmer of the water and the sun burnished their mahogany skin to a high gloss. Using his hands as ladles, Oto-Mani took fistfuls of water and tenderly poured them over his lover's chest and shoulders, which elicited Diodi's cooing and shivers. Scrubbing just a little with his palms to remove some of the road grime to return Diodi's skin to its typical mocha radiance, Oto-Mani lovingly performed this cleansing of Diodi, as though he was an artisan engaged in a labor of love. Diodi felt his heart beating violently against his chest, thumping so rapidly its beats reverberated throughout his frame like a tall drum. He wanted so badly to return the favor to Oto-Mani and scrub him next, but passion made them impatient. The water around them was like the primordial water of life, for it transported them to a cosmic place. Neither might recall who initiated the kiss. All that mattered is that lips, tongues, and teeth tenderly collided to light a fire within undulating waters. Diodi cupped Oto-Mani's head in his hands and drew him in, tenderly gnawing on his mouth as though he was still famished and needed sweet kisses for nourishment. He held the face of the only man whose soul was connected to his own, the only man to whom he would unflinchingly give his life, the only man who he felt free enough to give all of his beautiful body to in this little oasis in a strange land. Wordlessly, they removed their undergarments, tossing the waterlogged clothes up on the rocks. But then a husky voice startled them. "Aha! We found you!" Their heads jerked around to see a short, squat, muscled man dressed in a stark red toga, oddly holding a long, odd spear. However, the two most striking features about this man was his afro hair was a shockingly orange-yellow color. And, incidentally, he stood next to an elephant that had a fuzzy mane of hair, stood upright like a human, and was armored in polished turtle shells. The two lovers wrenched apart. Oto-Mani yelled, "What in the bedamned bloody guts of hell?" He and Diodi were tempted to rub their eyes to know if they were hallucinating. Out of the side of his mouth, Oto-Mani mumbled, "Odi, do you see an elephant standing erect like a man?" Diodi shook his head. "I do." Oto-Mani was reassured. "Okay, just checking. Why must their lovemaking be frequently interrupted by weird or supernatural pests?" It soon became obvious that they were not alone, for they sensed the presence of many more men around the perimeter of the pond. "Let me see your hands," yelled the yellow-haired man. They obeyed and immediately outstretched their hands. Still, Diodi yelled back, "You're arresting us? For what? And isn't it obvious that we have no weapons unless we are hiding knives up our asses?" The elephant spoke. Its words were very slurred, as one might expect if you have to speak with tusks constricting your mouth.
"Don't give us any great ideas about where to search you."
The yellow afro man addressed the elephant. "Oh, my dear brother Dem-Dem, we do not necessarily need to search them because they carelessly lost this." He pulled out from his toga the high priestess's parchment map that the travelers had used to navigate to the portal. Oto-Mani cursed through his teeth. "Damn! There's that map!" Diodi's surprise betrayed him. "I thought you had that map. I forgot to tell you that I lost it. And exactly when were you going to tell me?" The elephant mocked them.
"Ah, ain't that cute? A little lover's quarrel."
But then it angrily shouted to the other men,
"Such fair things!"
Oto-Mani protested. "Why? What have we done? Brother Tulu blessed us in our journey. Well, so much for this Makana paradise, I guess." No reply. Then Diodi noticed something. He elbowed Oto-Mani as he spoke through gritted teeth. "Muzi, aren't those the same two twin men who we saw Brother Tulu bless?" "I think so." The men were dressed in the same shade of yellow robes all the other men wore. Was this the color of this security force? Wasn't this the so-called Circle of Memory, according to Tulu's account? The twins rummaged through the burlap knapsack that was next to Oto-Mani's and Diodi's togas and their still wet undergarments. It did not take them long to find the Orbani. They did not seem surprised when they found it. They just matter-of-factually handed it to the yellow-haired man whose name was Fumo. Fumo handed his rifle to the elephant Dem-Dem and jostled the Orbani between both hands. "Ah, you're harboring a forbidden object? This might be a capital offense. Come out of the water and keep your hands up." Had Lolo set them up by giving them the Orbani? Had this been a ploy by Brother Tulu to have them arrested once they were away from the crowds of the pilgrimage? What was happening and why? Because these men-creatures seemed capable of violence, Diodi and Oto-Mani carefully waded out of the water. Glistening droplets dripped from their gorgeous mahogany-colored torsos, limbs, and undulating loins. Their masculine beauty prompted Fumo to mutter, "Oh my, I am certainly glad I found you two. Delicious." Diodi cut a deadly glare at Fumo as he quickly padded over the rocks to their wet undergarments. He handed Oto-Mani his garments and grabbed his own. They speedily put them on, almost teetering over as they used each other's shoulders to balance. The purpose of Diodi's glare was twofold. He was not just glaring at Fumo for his offensive flirting, but he was spying the landscape for an escape route. He caught a glimpse of a possibility over to their far left. Using Rakani non-verbal battle signals that he learned as a bodyguard to protect his sovereign, Diodi communicated his plan to Oto-Mani. It was understood. Fumo said to his men, "Okay, enough of the peep show. Shackle their hands." Just at that instant, Diodi rapidly bent down and grabbed a handful of dirt and pellets and flung them at Fumo and Demdem, who were briefly blinded. "Damn you!" The two sprinted as quickly as leopards to a rocky pathway to the left where a single man stood guard. They heard loud, inexplicable clicks and cocking sounds as they ran. "Damn, they're fast!" said one man. "No!" shouted Fumo. "Do not fire! Seize them! We must capture them alive!" With lightning speed, Diodi reached the single guard to the left. The man reared back his odd spear trying to club Diodi but swung too widely. Diodi darted backwards and drop-kicked the man with his right foot. The man violently tumbled to the ground, dazed and bruised for skidding upon sharp rocks. Jumping over the man's body, the pathway was now clear for him and Oto-Mani, though a dozen men were in hot pursuit. The two were very tempted to get the fallen man's odd spear, but they did not have time to figure out how it worked. Because Diodi was a length ahead of Oto-Mani, it was clear as to who often won the foot races and swimming races they had when they were teens. Still, they each ran with every portion of agility and rapidity their svelte bodies could muster. Their feet burned from the sharpness and hardness of the pebbles that lined the upward slope of the pathway, but they paid no attention to the pain. They had more pressing worries. The pathway was not clear. A man dressed in a long yellow robe jumped in front of Diodi, trying to use the butt of the odd spear in his hands to bludgeon Diodi in the face. Diodi deftly leaned back to avoid the blow, and then used the force of both hands to chop the man in the face, making him drop his weapon. It almost landed on Diodi's foot. As the man recoiled, Diodi kneed the man in the solar plex and sent him spilling to the ground, doubling up in pain and nausea. Diodi neglected to notice that there was a second man right after the first. This man swung wildly with his weapon 3 times, missing the agile Diodi. But he left his guard down enough that when he stepped in to try to swing a third time, Diodi kicked him in the groin. The man yelped like a wounded animal, fell to the ground, writhing in agony. "Damn dog!" The man was so hurt he could not even form words. One of the twins caught up with Oto-Mani and attempted to drag him down by one of his shoulders, using his weapon like a hook. Oto-Mani used the momentum of the man's tug to swing back around to face his attacker, and with the heel of his left palm jabbed the man in the face, hard enough to send him back reeling but not unconscious. Still, Oto-Mani did not take the time to kick the man and risk losing the second more he needed to stay ahead of his pursuers. Unfortunately, Oto-Mani could not outrun the hulk of a man that stopped him. He was a behemoth mass of muscle that was at least 3 heads taller than Oto-Mani, with more brawn than Oto-Mani had seen on any one human. The man caught Oto-Mani from behind and pinned his arms back in a vice grip. Oto-Mani struggled to free himself, but it was futile. The giant then used his massive head to butt Oto-Mani on the back of his head, cracking his skull. Dazed to the point he had both colorful stars and yellow sun rays blinding his vision, Oto-Mani crumpled to the ground with fire searing across his brain. When Oto-Mani fell face forward, the man put one of his enormous feet on his back and pinned him to the ground. He heard the giant say,
"Stay down, don't move."
All he could do was comply. Diodi looked back over his shoulder and saw that his beloved had been seized.
Puck, no.
He swiveled and started back down the path toward the giant and the others, but did not notice that yet a third man ran from the top of the hill and was able to grab his shoulder to nearly pull him to the ground. However, Oto-Mani crouched and used the momentum of the man's grasp to roll to the ground, barely missing a huge rock, and flipped the man up over his body in one lightning-fast move. The man's body hit the ground hard like a sack of rocks. Although Diodi's martial moves were courageous and brilliant, there were just too many of these men for him to free his beloved and fight them all off. 4 men caught up with Diodi while he was attempting to roll up off the ground from his last fight. They pulled him down to his knees and, like they did to Oto-Mani, pinned his face in the gravel while warning him not to move lest they pummel him into submission. Diodi caught a glimpse of Oto-Mani and yelled at the giant, "Leave him alone!"
"Shut up!"
snarled the giant. Subdued and bruised, the two were escorted by the troop of men back to stand before Fumo and Demdem. Oto-Mani waddled from the throbbing ache that radiated from the top of his spine up across the top of his head and down into his jaws. Light made it worse. Fumo made a tisk-tisk sound with his mouth. "You two certainly put up a beautiful fight. I was warned that you would, but now it is time you yield." Demdem pointed his pistol.
No funny business. Put your hands behind your heads.
Too exhausted to even speak. The two complied. Fumo continued. Good news though, we are taking you to your destination, the capital city. You'll reside there at the courtesy of the central jail. Before Oto-Mani could muster the strength to respond, the blackness of the Orbani that was still in Fumo's hand dissolved into a clear image of the royal lady Oto-Kimwa, the mother of the monarch. Strikingly beautiful as always, but clearly troubled. A bit muffled, she said,
Praise the Great Mother. I was told this thing might eventually work. Son, are you there? I've heard that you and Lady Olaria have fled the city. Son, please return. Return and defend your throne.
Fumo was frozen in shock, as were the others, because they had never seen an Orbani in operation. He was unaware that Orbani could transmit two ways. The royal lady saw him and Demdem and exclaimed,
Wait, who is this? Who is this? Where is my son?
Oto-Mani managed to yell, Mother, help! Help! Demdem grunted,
Shut up!
while Fumo quickly stuffed the crystal ball back into the burlap bag, thus somehow cutting the transmission. Oto-Mani and Diodi were ordered to dress in their togas and gather the rest of their things, minus the Orbani, of course. Then the group of men escorted them further down the road. Limping, the two did not know exactly how far away they were from the capital city, but they sensed they had a very long walk. Many questions raced through their minds. Were they being arrested because they were Rakana intruders? Had both Tulu and Lolo betrayed them? Was Olaria and her child safe? What would the great royal lady think and do based on the brief transmission? Worry gnawed at their stomachs.
Now, good people, please like, comment, and subscribe to catch the next thrilling episode of Red Circles of Fire.